Your phone vibrates, rattling slightly against the hard surface of your desk. The screen lights up, pulling your eyes away from whatever you were doing. A single text message sits there from someone whose opinion quietly dictates your peace of mind. A boss, a partner, or someone you bend over backward to please. 4 words. We need to talk. Instantly, the floor drops out from under you. A cold, heavy weight settles into the pit of your stomach. Your breathing turns shallow, catching in your throat, and a thin film of sweat breaks out across your palms. Why? Look at the reality of the situation. It is just dark pixels on a piece of illuminated glass. Nobody is holding a weapon to your head. Nobody is breaking down your door. Yet your nervous system is screaming at maximum volume, reacting as if your physical survival is on the line. You are experiencing a biological glitch. Your brain threat detection system is ancient. It was not built for digital communication or modern social dynamics. It was engineered for the savannah tens of thousands of years ago, where human beings survived exclusively by staying within the safety of the tribe. Back then, if you angered the authority figure or caused displeasure within the group, you were cast out into the wilderness alone. Expulsion meant a guaranteed brutal death by starvation or predators. Your brain still operates under that primitive, outdated software. It interprets someone else's displeasure not as a social inconvenience, but as an immediate death sentence. The weak version of you surrenders to this evolutionary ghost without a second thought. Your thumbs fly across the keyboard, frantically drafting an apologetic, accommodating paragraph. You try to fix the situation before you even know what is broken. You are begging to stay in the tribe, groveling to pacify a physical threat that does not actually exist. Every time you do this, you reward their behavior. You teach them that a simple shift in their mood is the only lever they need to pull to control your actions. The ruthless version of you feels that exact same surge of adrenaline. The biology does not change. Your heart still pounds, but the interpretation shifts completely. Instead of typing a desperate reply, you put the phone face down on the desk. You lean back in your chair, letting the cortisol flood your system, and you watch the sensation objectively. You recognize it for exactly what it is, a neurological echo, a shadow of a world that vanished millennia ago. You look around the room. You notice the walls, the quiet hum of the air conditioner, the solid ground beneath your feet. You are not in the wilderness. You cannot be exiled into the freezing dark. The displeased person on the other end of that phone holds absolutely no power over your actual physical survival. Their anger or disappointment is nothing more than a temporary chemical reaction happening inside their own skull. It is their internal problem, not your emergency. You understand the biology now. You know it is just an illusion. You can leave the phone face down, walk into the kitchen, pour a glass of water, and let them wait in the silence you created. But distance makes bravery easy. Knowing the science of fear does not automatically stop the panic when the screen is replaced by reality. What happens when the displeasure is not a digital message sent from miles away, but a physical presence? What do you do when the confrontation is direct, loud, and aimed right at your chest? The office hum has already started to thin out. You are sliding your laptop into your bag, the ambient noise of clicking keyboards slowly replaced by the rustle of coats and distant elevator dings. You are mentally out the door. You can already taste the cold condensation on the glass you plan to hold tonight. Then comes the shadow falling across your desk, the heavy, flat thud of a stuffed manila folder hitting your keyboard. You look up. Your colleague is standing there, leaning their weight on your partition, wearing that expectant, hollow smile. They are not asking for a favor. They are offloading a massive problem they created, fully expecting you to clean up their mess. Just like you always do. Instantly, the catastrophic projection takes over. Your brain starts rendering a terrifying, high-definition simulation of the future. If you push that folder back, they will raise their voice. The atmosphere will turn completely toxic. The professional relationship will incinerate, your reputation will tank, and your daily life will become an unbearable, hostile nightmare. Your throat tightens. You swallow hard, feeling the dry click in your esophagus. The weak version of you folds under the weight of this invisible apocalypse. You force the corners of your mouth upward into a painful, strained curve. You look at the mess of papers, take a shallow breath, and say the two words that have cost you years of your life. No problem. You watch them walk away, whistling, completely unbothered by the grenade they just dropped in your lap. You sink back down into your chair. You pull your phone out and send the text canceling your evening plans. Your jaw aches as you clench your teeth together, swallowing the bitter, acidic surge of resentment rising in your chest. You traded your self-respect for the illusion of peace. Rewind the tape. The folder hits the desk. The shadow falls over you. The ruthless version of you feels that exact same spike of adrenaline. The catastrophic simulation tries to load, but you do not let it run. You sever the wire. You do not smile. You do not explain how exhausted you are. You do not offer an apology. You pick up the folder, feeling the rough, coarse texture of the paper against your fingertips, and you hold it out. You lock your eyes squarely onto theirs, holding the gaze just a fraction of a second past what is comfortable. I have other priorities today. I will look at this on Monday. You wait for the explosion. You brace your muscles for the cataclysmic fallout your nervous system promised you. Nothing happens. There is no screaming. The ceiling does not collapse. Their jaw simply hardens. They blink once, twice, a sharp defensive flutter of the eyelids. They snatch the folder out of your hand, let out a sharp puff of air through their nose, and pivot on their heel. Let them huff. Let them walk away with a stiff spine. Do not try to smooth it over. You just executed a masterclass in behavioral recalibration. You did not attack them. You simply built an electric fence and watched them touch it. They got shocked, and now they know exactly where your territory begins. The catastrophe was a lie. It was a phantom designed by your own mind to keep you obedient. So you survived the direct confrontation, you held the line, and you proved that the explosion is a myth. The sky remained perfectly intact, but human manipulation is rarely that loud or straightforward. What if they do not yell? What if they whisper? What happens when the displeasure mutates into something far more insidious, spreading through the suffocating pressure of the silent treatment and the quiet, punishing judgment of the group? The clinking of silverware against porcelain suddenly stops. The ambient chatter of the dining table evaporates, replaced by a thick, suffocating stillness. You just did the unthinkable. You refused the bait. When the usual thinly veiled insult was slid across the table, disguised as a casual observation about your life choices, you did not defend yourself. You simply looked at them and stated you were not participating in this drama. Now, the room is dead quiet. You can feel the heat radiating in the back of your neck. Eyes dart back and forth, entirely avoiding yours, communicating through sharp microscopic glances. The collective, unspoken judgment presses down on your posture. The entire room is broadcasting a single echoing thought. Who does he think he is? The gravity of their silent disapproval pulls at your vocal cords. The weak version of you cannot endure this vacuum. Your brain demands an immediate fix to soothe the tribal tension. You shift your weight, let out a hollow, nervous chuckle, and crack a self-deprecating joke. You mock your own stubbornness just to lower the temperature in the room. You willingly play the court jester to buy back their comfort, desperately sweeping your own boundary under the rug so they will look at you with warmth again. But you are fighting a ghost. This crushing weight you feel is the spotlight illusion. Your nervous system is convinced that you are the central character in their mental theater, that your sudden rebellion will be the sole topic of their thoughts for weeks to come. The cold, surgical reality is far less flattering. 95% of the people sitting around that table will completely forget this interaction by next Tuesday. They are not analyzing your audacity. They are entirely consumed by their own quiet desperations. They are obsessing over their receding hairlines, their failing marriages, or the stack of final notices sitting on their kitchen counters. They only care about your boundary because it temporarily interrupted the steady loop of their own internal monologues. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus laid out the architectural blueprint for this exact moment. We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. Rewind the scene. The room goes quiet. The eyes dart. The judgment hangs heavy over the plates. The ruthless version of you does not rush to the rescue. You do not offer a joke. You do not soften your posture to make yourself smaller. You lean back into the upholstery of your chair. You reach for your glass, feeling the sharp cold of the condensation against your palm. And you take a slow, deliberate sip of water. You let the silence stretch until it becomes physically uncomfortable. But it is not uncomfortable for you. You force the awkwardness to belong entirely to them. You sit completely still and watch them squirm, clear their throats, and frantically search for a new topic to fill the void you refuse to plug. Power shifted the exact moment you went silent. You just conquered the fear of the group. You watched their whispers dissolve into nothing, proving that their collective displeasure holds absolutely no jurisdiction over your reality. You no longer care what they think. But the final boss is not the group. The final boss is the terrifying, deafening silence when you turn the key in your own front door, sit on the edge of your mattress in an empty room, and realize you have absolutely no idea who you are without them. The screen of your phone rests face up on the bedside table, a flat, dead rectangle of black glass. You stare at it, waiting for a glow that never comes. You stopped initiating. You stopped fixing their crises. You cut off the supply of endless favors and unsolicited rescues. You expected this boundary to feel like a sudden rush of fresh air. Instead, the oxygen in your bedroom feels heavy, pressing inward against your ribs. The silence rings violently in your ears. The faint mechanical hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen is the only proof that the physical world has not stopped spinning entirely. This is not freedom. This is sensory deprivation. For a decade, you outsourced your existence. You built the entire scaffolding of your ego out of their emergencies, their moods, and their demands. You were the reliable one, the savior, the tireless shock absorber for everyone else's chaotic decisions. When they panicked, you had a clear purpose. When they demanded a piece of you, you had direction. Your self-worth was nothing more than a distorted reflection in their eyes. You traded your sovereignty for the cheap currency of being useful. Now that you have stopped serving them, that mirror is shattered. You are looking down at your own hands and realizing you have absolutely no idea who the person occupying your body actually is. This is the brutal mechanism of identity enmeshment. You did not just break a habit by walking away from that dining table. You burned your only map of the world. The weak version of you cannot tolerate this suffocating vacuum. Your throat goes dry. Your fingers twitch against the fabric of your jeans. The urge to surrender crashes over your nervous system, desperate and chemical. You lean forward, muscles coiled, wanting to snatch that dead piece of glass, open a messaging application, and send a casual check-in to a toxic acquaintance who only ever drains your energy. You want to manufacture a problem just so you can offer the solution. You are completely willing to throw yourself directly back into the crushing machinery of their drama just to feel the familiar friction of being needed. You want to beg for the chains back just to prove to yourself that you still exist. The ruthless version of you stops the movement halfway. You pull your hand back, you drop your shoulders, letting your arms hang heavy at your sides, and you keep your eyes locked on the blank wall opposite the bed. You force your racing pulse to sit perfectly still inside this crushing emptiness. You swallow the instinct to crawl back into the cage. You realize that this hollow ache in your chest is not death. It is a cleared construction site. You demolish the rotten parasitic architecture of the pleaser, and this deafening silence is the barren soil left behind. The ashes are still warm. It demands nothing from you. It owes nothing to them. You sit in the dark and force yourself to breathe the dust, accepting that for the first time in your life, you are standing on solid bedrock. But staring into the void is a beautiful philosophy for a quiet, isolated room. You cannot live in a vacuum forever. Tomorrow morning, the sun will rise. The relentless machinery of the real world will resume its assault. A notification will shatter the silence, delivering an aggressive, high-pressure demand from someone completely unwilling to tolerate your newfound independence. You will not have the luxury of sitting on the edge of a mattress to process your internal philosophy. You are going to face a direct, aggressive strike, and you will need a tactical, split-second weapon to sever their psychological grip the exact moment your pulse begins to race. The screen flashes. A banner drops down from the top edge of your phone, carrying an email marked high priority. The subject line is a solid block of capitalized letters demanding your immediate attention for a crisis that belongs entirely to someone else. They want to compromise right now. They expect you to cancel your evening, alter your rigid schedule, and bend your boundaries to absorb the full impact of their poor planning. You stare at the illuminated glass, and an involuntary tightening grips the base of your skull. Your thumbs are already hovering over the glowing virtual keyboard. 2 words are queued up in your mind, ready to escape and end the friction. Okay, fine. The weak version of you is practically begging to press send. Why? Because right in this exact second, your brain is lying to you. Under the threat of another human being's displeasure, your nervous system triggers a profound time distortion. Your ancient survival wiring cannot tell the difference between a mild social annoyance and immediate physical exile into a freezing wilderness. It treats their petty frustration like eternal damnation. To avoid 10 uncomfortable minutes of their passive-aggressive silence, the weak version of you is prepared to sacrifice an entire evening, resentfully doing their heavy lifting while grinding your jaw into dust. You are trading pieces of your actual life to buy temporary relief from a phantom threat. Stop the clock, drop your hands into your lap, and force the air deep into your stomach until your shoulders physically lower. This is the exact moment you deploy the algorithmic override. You are going to shatter the time distortion using a tactical wedge. You apply the 10-10-10 test. Ask yourself one clinical question. Will the displeasure of the demanding sender matter in 10 minutes? Yes. Your chest will still feel tight, and the air in the room will carry the sharp metallic sting of fresh conflict. Will their anger matter in 10 months? Barely. It will be a gray, faded memory buried under a year of ordinary days, a vague echo of someone else's tantrum. Will this exact interaction matter in 10 years? Total, absolute irrelevance. It will not even register as a microscopic footnote in the history of your existence. The ruthless version of you does not operate in the panic of the present second. You borrow cold, unshakable power directly from your future self. You bring that 10-year perspective backward in time and let it guide your hands. You pick up the device. You highlight the 3 lines of apology you instinctively started typing, and you delete them permanently. You write a firm, unbothered 1-sentence boundary. I am not available to handle this tonight. No exclamation points or digital smiley faces used to soften the blow. No lengthy paragraphs of justification that secretly beg for their understanding. You hit send. You toss the phone onto the sofa cushions, walk into the kitchen, and pour yourself a glass of tap water, letting the sudden, shocking silence settle over the house. You possess the weapon. You have finally drawn a hard line in the concrete. But here is the brutal, unspoken reality of human behavior that you are about to face. The people who have fed off your fear of displeasure for years are not going to look at that boundary and politely walk away. Parasites do not relinquish their food source willingly. By closing the door, you have just triggered their starvation mechanism. The initial shock of your refusal is fading, and the backlash is already loading. The next 72 hours are going to be a war. The silence you created just shattered. It has been exactly 3 days since you drew the line. You're standing in the kitchen, wiping down a clean counter with a damp cloth, when your phone begins to vibrate with a violence that shakes the ceramic mug next to it. They are not walking away peacefully. They are escalating. You pick up the device. A massive wall of text greets you. Then, an audio message drops into the chat. You tap play and hear a sudden, sharp intake of breath. They are crying. Not quiet, reflective tears, but the heavy, gasping, theatrical sobbing of the ultimate victim. The accusations jump out of the speaker, dripping with manufactured betrayal. They call you cold. They call you heartless. They demand to know why you suddenly do not care about anyone but yourself. A familiar, burning pressure rises in your throat. The weak version of you feels the desperate physical urge to fix it, to apologize, to type out a frantic paragraph explaining that you did not mean to hurt them, that you just needed a little space. Stop. If you do this, you lose everything. You need to understand the exact psychological mechanism playing out on your illuminated screen. Behavioral scientists call this the extinction burst. Put a rat in a cage with a metal lever. Every time the rat presses the lever, a food pellet drops. It learns the system perfectly. But one day the researchers turn off the machine. The rat presses the lever and nothing happens. It does not simply shrug its shoulders and walk away to find another corner of the cage. It loses its mind. It bashes the metal bar furiously. It scratches and bites the mechanism, throwing its entire body against the lever in a frantic, escalating attempt to force the system to pay out. You are the machine. Your guilt is the lever. Your compliance is the food. For years, they have pressed your emotional buttons and received an immediate payout of your time, your energy, and your submission. Now that you have cut off the supply, they are not grieving a lost connection. They are bashing the lever. They are throwing every weaponized emotion at the wall, hoping that enough pressure will force the machine to spit out one more pellet. If the weak version of you caves right now, if you send that desperate apology, you commit the ultimate behavioral sin. You teach them a terrifying new lesson. You show them that your boundaries are a bluff. You prove that an aggressive temper tantrum is simply the new price they have to pay for your complete surrender. The ruthless version of you sets the phone flat on the counter. You do not touch the screen. You do not argue. You do not explain yourself. You step back and watch the meltdown with cold anthropological curiosity. Look at them scramble. Look at the desperate tactics of a parasite that realizes its host has suddenly evolved. You feel the tight knot in your stomach dissolve, your shoulders dropping away from your ears. You finally see the game. You realize their explosive anger is not a sign that you are being cruel. It is the ultimate, undeniable proof that your boundary is working flawlessly. Anchor this new identity. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I no longer serve the illusion of their approval. Then, if you want to master the dark psychology of silence and make them respect your absence, click the video on screen right now.